Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the next interview of the She Shakes the World interview series. I am delighted to be here with you today with Johanna White. I'm going to introduce I'm going to introduce the lovely Jo to you. You're going to love her energy, you are going to love her story, and I feel you're going to be very inspired by what she has to share with you. So let me just briefly introduce her to you. She is Johanna White. She is an award-winning graphic designer and visual branding strategist who designs premium brand identities that create impactful first impressions. She is the founder of Designed by Jo Studio, and Johanna knows there is no limits on success. And listen to this, as she proved it several years ago when she took life by the horns and started 3 companies within 1 year while battling a brain tumor. That is just incredible. And I know we're going to go and dive into that, Johanna, but at a time when everyone else in her life was suggesting that she quit working and go on Social Security to cover medical bills, she chose to do the opposite and defy the odds. And as a result, Johanna is now a dreamer extraordinaire for top performers, goal-orientated individuals and brands. Wow, what an introduction, Jo. It's so lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining us on the She Shakes the World interview series. I don't even know where to begin here. So I would love for you to share with the listeners just that bit about your journey where you were diagnosed with a brain tumor, and like you said, at a time when everyone else was saying to you, right, you need to stop, you need to slow down, you need to give yourself time to work through this, you decided, no, actually, I'm going to start 3 companies and I'm going to please just share, if you will, as much as you can of that story with us.
Absolutely. So it started about 9 years ago, and I was doing design at that time, working at a creative services agency, but it was like minimal, lowest on the totem pole, least impactful design work you could possibly doing. I was basically checking ads for errors before they went out, like
Okay.
not doing anything really to um, nothing that required skill or talent or anything. And that safe little job really well reflected the rest of my life as well. Very play it safe, don't rock the boat. I was comfortable with my mediocrity. Like,
Wow.
I knew I was capable of greatness, but I was safe, I was secure, and I sought like certainty above all else. So I played small. I kept a job that I knew didn't even come close to tapping into what I was capable of because it was easy, but it was also like not even full time. So I didn't have insurance or any of this stuff. So that's kind of the
Okay.
backstory there.
Got you.
And, but what I really built my identity around at that time, if there was one thing I was good at, it was being strong, like physically fit, rode horses, ballroom dancing, uh, working out, running, like 10 pounds stronger than the average woman and 40 pounds stronger than the average man. Kind of like I had built this whole like Johanna's the badass, Johanna's the tough one, Johanna's the strong one. And then, and I was always very healthy. Um, and out of the blue, one day I woke up with a pounding migraine, like 3 in the morning, literally crumbled out of bed, just rolled out, hit the ground, went, what is going on? And it felt like a pickaxe through my skull.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, like I've probably been spending way too much time in front of screens. That's it, because I'm healthy.
Okay.
and and I like suffered through it for 3 or 4 days. I had to sleep in a closet because even a little pinprick of light would just make me want to throw up. It was such intense pain. And when it finally went away, I was left with sudden partial paralysis down my left side.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, I went from like, I just have a really bad headache to my vocal cords were paralyzed, so I couldn't talk. The muscles in my throat on the left side were paralyzed. And so I couldn't swallow. Food was coming out of my nose instead of going down my throat. And I couldn't raise my left arm very high. And I felt like I was choking constantly. And so I realized in my infinite wisdom that this was clearly not too much screen time. And that started this journey of discovery. And you think when something's wrong with you, it's kind of like the TV show House, and you go to the ER and they don't let you leave until they've solved this. It's not like that. I went to the emergency room at my parents' insistence. This is like 7 or 8 days in. I've dropped a bunch of weight because I can't eat. I can barely breathe. And the ER tells me I'm imagining things. Yeah, they ran a scope down my throat and said, well, there's nothing in there. You're not choking, so you're imagining things. And and they sent me home.
Gosh.
Yeah. And then we knew like there's got to be something going on. I still can't talk. I still can't really swallow. So we went to an ear, nose, and throat doctor who thankfully tied all of the symptoms together and said, oh, okay, this is bad. Like there's one thing that controls all of these. It's your 9th and 10th cranial nerves. And I'm sending you to a neurosurgeon to do CAT scans, MRIs, all that stuff. Okay. So they send me to the surgeon and they do all of the scans. And I'm still talking myself out of this. Like there's some sort of weird phenomena. Maybe I pulled a major muscle. Like, I don't know how I could explain this, but I was explaining hard. And I'm at work at my sad little job, working second shift. And it's like 8 p.m. and I get a call on my phone and I see that it's the surgeon. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. They don't call you at 8 o'clock at night. And I pick it up and it's the doctor himself, not his office. And I'm like, this is really not good. So I'm there by myself at the office and he just says, is anyone with you? Are you sitting down? Here's the deal. We found a mass. And my safe little world just kind of crashed around me. And I remember asking him, well, like, what does that mean? Tell me more. What is it? What am I gonna die? And he just said, I don't know. And I don't know. Like, we know very little about it. You'll have to get more tests and a brain biopsy to find out if it's malignant or benign and all of these things. But here's your next appointment. Come back soon. All of this stuff. So that took me from my like, I'm healthy, I'm safe, I'm boring. My life is boring and I'm not really trying in my work life, or relationships or any of these things, but at least I know what tomorrow looks like, to I have no idea what tomorrow looks like. And it looks like I'm not going to know for quite a while. So that diagnosis really launched me into a long journey on the medical side of things, like going from surgeon to surgeon to surgeon who would say, we think we can help you. Let's take a closer look. We're going to do an MRI. And they'd do an MRI and they'd say, we think it's the same size or maybe bigger. Our machine's actually not right for it. It could cause more harm than good. Try this next guy.
Wow.
And that journey was over the span of like 2 years, where
2 years.
They really space it out. You think it'll be like an emergency when they say, no, I can't help you, try this other guy, but it's still 6 months to get into his office and
So what
and
are
all
you
of this stuff
doing in this 2
So
years? How are you?
yeah,
What are you doing to manage this, and how are you coping?
so that is the much better part of this story, which is that was what was happening on the surface and the medical side of things. But what was happening in my life was immediately after I got diagnosed, maybe no, like the day I got diagnosed, went home, told my parents. My dad called his best friend, who is a really great guy and a really just like black and white Christian man of faith. And he's very, sometimes you want to punch him for what he says, but he really loves well. And you know that what he says because he loves you. Because he's showed that to me my whole life. And he showed up on our porch the morning after the diagnosis, and he handed me an iPad mini, brand new, preloaded with the Olive Tree Bible app and every verse he knew about healing. And he handed it to me and he said, "This is tools for the battle. We're going to fight. Grab your parents. We're going for a walk." And so before we had a chance to tell anyone what was going on, he took us for a walk and he said, "Johanna, you've said your whole life that you believe in God and you believe in healing, but you're not acting like it right now and you're not talking like it right now. This is your chance to actually do something about what you believe and act like you believe it." And so he challenged me before I even got a chance to lick my wounds, feel sorry for myself, and march out and tell everybody that I have a brain tumor and I'm going to die. He stopped me in my tracks, basically, and changed the entire course of my life. Because
so many chills, by the way. I am even tearing up from what you're saying. Just it's such a powerful story. So sorry, carry on, but I just needed to share. I feel the emotion of it. It's incredible.
Well, it wasn't easy to do what he said, and I had lots of times where I faltered, but what I did was I took every single one of those verses, I found more of my own, and I just started to speak them out loud and say, I'm going to get my body to believe this. First my mind and then my body. And I wanted to ask questions like, what about this person? They believed in healing and they died. What about this person? They prayed for healing. They never got it. Like, what about that? And he just reminded me that their story is not your story. Only they know what was going on in their mind, and you can only control what's going on in your mind.
Yeah.
And you need to start talking like this. And so
what would you say to yourself?
So there was so many verses, but my absolute favorite one was one that actually popped into my head the first night when I woke up with the migraine, before I even knew I had a tumor. This verse just popped into my head, and it says, "I shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord." And I thought, what a funny verse. I just have a headache. Like, this was way before I even knew that that something was majorly wrong. But then once the diagnosis came out, and then when my friend gave me all of those verses, and it just reminded me, like, God was gracious enough to give me the word of life before the doctors gave me the word of death. And I'm not going to take the doctor's word as the last word. And so I would stand on that verse and I would just speak it out constantly. There is one that says, if you live by the flesh, by the physical, you will die. But if you by your spirit put to death the misdeeds of the flesh, you will live. And I looked at that and I went, so it's like there's this other realm. There's the senses, that's the flesh. See, taste, hear, smell, feel. And but then there's what's actually true. And those are the words. And I can speak them and I can choose them. And I can put to death this misdeed, because this tumor is a misdeed. My body's not meant to have it. And I can say, go, and it goes. You mean I get to choose? And so I just started speaking that out. And I would play, like, if I woke up with a migraine and couldn't sleep, or the symptoms were really bad, I would play Psalms on my phone while I laid there in bed and thought, I'm just going to put in, like, if I'm going to lay here awake, I'm going to put in faith. Yes. And I started to notice also early in the journey that the anxiety and the fear would hit, obviously, like panicking, don't know what's going to happen. I've always been certain of everything, and now I have no certainty, and the doctors don't know anything either, and I still don't know. And I noticed that I'd go from almost choking to passed out on the floor because the anxiety would like double the symptoms.
Yes.
And so I didn't know for sure yet if I could do something about the tumor, but I knew I could do something about the fear. And I tried all the usual, just don't be afraid. Yeah, that works real well.
Yeah, it doesn't work that one, does it?
Tell myself it's fine. That didn't work so well either. But I did start to realize that fear can be drowned out.
Okay.
It can't necessarily be told to just leave. You have to replace it. You have to overwhelm it and you have to overcome it with good inputs. So
Mm,
I chose to put in positive, intentional inputs, and I would put headphones in and play sermons on healing while I was working. I would listen to every sort of just verses on healing and scriptures on healing. And it was all, for me, it was very faith-based stuff. But anyone who was talking about healing, I was like, that's for me. I'm putting it in. And I wouldn't even try to listen to it. I would just let it play
yeah.
in the background of my
Almost
mind.
subconsciously going in
Yeah.
without you. Yeah, I get it. Yes.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
that's where the fear was.
Mm,
It's like I'm trying to focus on my work and there's a subconscious hamster wheel. You're going to die. 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 Oh my gosh, you're going to die. And so I knew that like I had to stop being afraid long enough for my body to heal
yeah.
because I knew that it was making my symptoms worse. And the few moments that I noticed that I stopped thinking at all, like I'd watch a funny movie with my family, all of a sudden I'd get done with it and my head would hurt a little less. And I'd be like, wait a second. When I wasn't thinking about it, it started to feel better. And so I had to stop thinking about it. That was my mission number one. Stop thinking about the fear and start focusing on the faith.
Yeah.
And do something about it. Like I had to start speaking this out
Yeah.
so that my body could believe it too. And when the symptoms were too bad and I couldn't speak it out, I would call my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and he would speak it out. Like he'd read the verses, or I'd call my mom and she would read the verses. And like I had so many people just standing with me through this.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, a lot of people, as they started to point me towards Johanna, you're going to need a brain biopsy because we still don't know what this is. So that was pretty early on, like after the diagnosis and the CAT scans and the MRIs, they want to find out if it's malignant or benign. So you need a biopsy. And that was going to be very expensive. And I didn't have insurance because I was working, like they kept me at just under 30 hours a week so that I wouldn't qualify for benefits.
Wow. Wow.
And so that's why people started saying, Johanna, you need to just quit your job and go on Medicaid because you're going to, like, if you survive this, you're going to spend the rest of your life drowning in potentially millions of dollars of brain surgery debt.
Okay.
And so they were well-meaning.
Yeah.
But I looked at it and went, no, I'm still physically able to work. In fact, I haven't even come close to trying yet or doing anything that I know I'm capable of. And if I quit now, I think it's going to be another 3 years and I'm still going to be this sad person with this like victim story. And I need to think about who's Johanna on the other side of this. And and Johanna on the other side of this is fearless. And she is living at like max potential. And I don't know how much time I have left. The doctors apparently don't either. But if I don't know, I do know one thing, and that is I am not going out like this. So I did quit my job, but not to go on Medicaid. Instead, I was like, if I'm going to live up to my dreams of doing brand work on a bigger scale and serving clients at an amazing level and doing transformative things for their business. And like, if I'm going to become the brand name in brand design ever, it's now or never. And so I quit my job. I literally walked out of the office and started knocking on business doors, like going down the street, knocking on business doors. Hi, I'm Johanna. I design stuff. You need stuff designed?
Wow. It's just and it's just incredible because I mean, not everyone will hopefully hit that point in their life where they have to make that decision. But what I
Mhm.
hope people are taking from this is, do you know what? If you do have something more inside of you, don't wait. Don't
Yeah.
wait. Don't wait until you're forced to, not forced, but you know, in a way you were divinely given that nudge to make you wake up. And
Yeah.
hopefully this is a wake up for some people listening, going, okay, you know, there is something more, and why wait, why stop, why hold myself back?
Yeah. That's absolutely, I hope you never get a brain tumor to kick you in the pants.
Mm,
But I decided to use mine instead of giving up, which
mm,
I wanted to do.
yes.
I decided to instead enjoy every moment that I had left. And so as the fear was shrinking, I started to realize, like, not only did I put in inputs to drown out the fear, but then I also asked myself what it was I was really afraid of. And I realized I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of living with a lower quality of life,
Okay.
like living in a wheelchair or living on a feeding tube or something,
Okay.
because my whole identity was in being the strong person.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my body's not working like it should. I can't do the workouts that I want to do anymore. Instead, like I try to work out, muscles get weaker. Wait, this isn't how it's supposed to work. And I want to just quit, give up, let it happen. But at the same time, I asked myself, what am I really afraid of? And discovered it was losing happiness, really. I
Mm,
thought, if I live with a lower quality of life, there goes my joy. But then I realized that I could choose joy no matter what my circumstances were. And when that sunk in, I had nothing left to fear. Like, in the midst of the pain with my body not working, I chose joy. I chose to work out anyway and just be grateful that I could move. I
mm,
chose that any day that I could move, I would, and be thankful for that gift and not worried about the outcome. Like, does it make my muscles stronger? It doesn't matter. I'm just glad I can move today.
yeah.
I'm going to have joy in that movement. And so that's how the second business happened.
Okay.
I in I found a pair of yoga pants online while I was looking for something to keep me going, and it said I will on the leg. And so I bought them
Yeah.
and I laid them out on my dresser, and every day I saw them, and I didn't want to work out because it's not doing anything anyway. But I would see that and I'd go, nope, today is a gift. I don't know how many I have left, but I can move today. So I'm going to move. So I'd put them on and I'd work out. And they just reminded me, it was just a structure, a physical reminder of something that to keep me moving. And I thought, well, if a pair of yoga pants can motivate me this much, maybe maybe there's some other women out there who need to have some motivation for whatever they're facing in their life. And maybe they need to not take the doctor's word as the last word, or maybe they're recovering from an abusive situation, or maybe this. And so I saw what those pants had done for me, and I reached out to the designer. They were in like Sweden.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, do you want to be sold in the US? And they said, yeah. And they were
Wow.
they were they were really cool leggings. They were made out of recycled water bottles. And so then I went, well, I'm going to start another business. And I reached out to several other designers in Serbia and Australia and Canada. And I built this little boutique called Uniquely Yoga.
Wow.
And really, I only started that one because I wanted other people to have a chance to have the same sort of like motivation. And I wanted a chance to meet some of them
Yeah.
and tell my story. And so Uniquely Yoga was born.
Wow.
And
How did
it
that help
did
you? Did it transform women's life? Did you get lots of people interested in your story?
so it never got as big as I dreamed it could,
Mm,
because I was spending as you start three businesses at the same time. It's hard
mhm.
to know which one
Yes,
gets the attention.
yes,
And Design by Joe is the one that got the most of my attention and
yeah,
thus has thrived hugely.
yes,
But in the course of its time, Uniquely Yoga still exists,
yeah.
although I'm considering selling that business so that
Mm,
I can, now that it's 8 years later, I feel like
yes,
it's done its
yes,
job in my life.
absolutely.
But there were some really cool things along the way that did happen. Like I, a woman bought a pair of pants. She reached out and asked for if we had really high compression because she has like hyperextensive limbs. And I told her we did and recommended which ones. And she bought them. And then when I sent them to her, I wrote her a note and I told her a little bit about my story and just like, hey, hope you love these. I'm praying for your injuries and all this stuff. Well, she messaged back on Facebook and told me her story that she was like 37 years old. She was working as a teacher, and in her family there was congenital heart defects,
Yeah.
and everyone previously had died by 40.
Wow.
Like her dad and then her grandma, and they all died by 40. So she's 37 and she hasn't lived her dream life yet. Like she likes teaching, but she knew it wasn't what
Mm,
she wanted to do. But she thought, well, it's too late. I'm going to be dead soon anyway. I've got, she had a son to
yes.
take care of. And so a lot of fear in there for her. And most people would say justifiably so.
Yeah.
But I
You
just
helped
kind
her
of
through that
encouraged her.
then.
I just kind of encouraged her. I told her what happened. I was like, don't you dare say you're dying by 40 just
Mm,
because that's what the doctors say. Like, here's what's happened. And at that point, I had come a long way in my journey.
yes.
I'll get back to that.
I was going to say, there's so
Can't
many
leave.
things to ask you.
I know. I can't leave that hanging. But I told her about my healing journey and how if I had chosen to believe the doctors, I probably would have been dead then.
Yeah.
But I chose to not that I didn't take their advice, but I said, nope, there's more. It is possible. I am going to be healed. And I stood on that. And so I told her about that.
Yeah.
And I heard from her. We kept in touch. I heard from her a year later. She'd quit her job and like started this fitness training, and she was doing all these different things. And now, like 7 years later, she's still going strong, no
Yeah.
signs of a heart defect. And
I have chills. I
so,
have chills, and my whole body has chills. I think there's what I'm feeling is there's people listening to this and they're going, yes. And I hope they're just feeling that even if it's a diagnosis, whatever it is, like it doesn't have to be the end, and actually choose joy and choose life and just see what can happen. What what what
yeah.
what could possibly go wrong with choosing joy and choosing to live your fulfilled life and following your dreams?
Well, people will tell you, as well-meaning friends did try to tell me, when I had come to the like, no, I'm going to choose joy and live my life, and it's now or never. They
Mm,
told me, Johanna, you're in denial. You just need to accept this. You need to like take a step back and prepare to die. Really? Why? Like,
yes,
what good would that possibly do me or anyone else?
yes, yes.
And they're not my friends anymore.
So what happened? So clearly, you're 9 years later. Here you are. You're glowing. You're thriving. You have this amazing Design by Joe business that I know does incredible things to help entrepreneurs and business owners sort of get their message out there. And I can feel your passion for it. So what happened to get you here? I just because I'm sure everyone's going, wow, what happened?
What happened? So many good things. I didn't mean to leave you on pins and needles there.
No, but I'm
My story
eager to hear that.
This story is like a spiral graph. It just circles back around, and it's really hard to tell it in a straight
Oh,
line.
you
So
can't.
thank you for your
It has to,
patience.
oh, it has to flow as it needs to flow, and I'm glad it has done.
Yeah. So what happened? So let me go back to that initial diagnosis. Um, I hear the results are, we don't know. The results are inconclusive. That started my spiral into fear and this hardcore search for certainty that I thought was just around the next corner, the next doctor, the next thing. And I got the brain biopsy. They stuck a needle through my skull 3 times, took samples. I hear back from them. Once again, the results are inconclusive. We don't even know if it's cancerous or benign. And like, but go to this surgeon. Here's another MRI. Maybe he can help you with a gamma knife, like just move down the road. But while that was happening, I was doing everything I could to do something about what I believed. I was standing on the word. I was speaking out the verses. I was putting in good inputs. I was not doing things like telling people I have a brain tumor.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say I wouldn't deny it. And I just didn't try to talk about it or bring it up. Like there's still people that have known me for a really long time. And they're like, what? I
Yeah.
never knew.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't want to make it an important part of my life. I didn't want to make it all of my life. I didn't want
Yes.
to make it my new identity.
Yeah. You didn't
And
own it in that sense. It didn't just
yeah,
become you. Okay. Got you.
yeah. And so my friend who challenged me, I even told him, I was like, I'm not going to lie to people. I'm not going to say I'm perfectly healthy when clearly this is happening. And he said, no, don't do that. Just don't claim it. Don't own it. So say, this is what the doctors have found, or according to this last MRI,
Yes.
I have this.
Yeah.
And just like, I got really careful with the way I talked. And as I did that, my body started to heal. The symptoms started to get better. The muscles that were atrophied started to come back, even though they said it was nerve damage. And even if they removed the tumor, like the muscles in my neck would never come back again. They started to get stronger and stronger. And I like the big switch happened when I got through the fear.
Yeah.
When I said, there's nothing left to fear, I'm going to choose joy. It was like then my mind quieted down a lot and the healing could finally begin. And so my symptoms started getting better and better and better. I was doing those things like playing the words, speaking them out, talking, having someone else speak them, being careful about what I said, and focusing on what was next. So starting the businesses was like giving myself the goal that there is a future, and I'm not just going to focus on this problem. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but sometimes when we focus on our problems, they just grow.
Yeah.
They get bigger. Or you focus on the thing you're scared of, and smaller things become scary.
Yeah.
And smaller things like,
Your
and
world
so
gets smaller, doesn't it? Whereas it sounds like
yes,
your world got bigger and more exciting and more joyful and
yes.
more expansive.
And so my symptoms started to get better and better and better. And probably 6 to 8 months after the initial diagnosis, my body looked good again.
Yeah.
I still had some choking and some headaches, but we went ahead and went to that next scheduled appointment because it takes 6 months to get in anyway. And I went in certainty. Like, I know that my body is healing, but I want to see it on paper.
Yeah.
I want to see that MRI that backs this up. So I went and I'm like feeling great. Faith is high. I'm expecting to see a clean MRI or it's much, much smaller. And I go there and they do the scan and they say, actually, it's the same or maybe bigger.
Okay.
And my faith just crumbled, gone. And the very helpful doctor also went on to list like the next 5 symptoms I would probably experience.
Okay.
He's trying to prepare me for the worst. And so he's like, it'll push out your jaw and you'll lose vision in your right eye and you'll have like facial paralysis and numbness and on and on. So I cried all the way home from that appointment and woke up the next morning with all of my symptoms back, plus some new ones,
Okay.
like total relapse.
Yeah.
My body just reverted completely back. And
So what do you do in that moment?
oh man.
Wow. I
Well,
mean,
you
oh,
kind of start
yeah,
over. You lick your wounds, you panic for a little bit,
yeah.
and then you realize, wait a second, I've been here before and I
Okay.
know what to do this time. And I just started again, like standing, speaking, praying, and putting in inputs and changing the way that I talked again. And my body then healed a second time, much faster
Yes.
this time, almost all the way better. But again, I want certainty. So I go to the next appointment. Now it's a year down the road, and I've been on this roller coaster, and I'm just so sure that this time the MRI is going to say, clean, she's done, because
Yeah.
look how great I am. That doesn't happen. Same, same thing.
Wow. So
Only,
the
only
tumor's
the,
still there as such.
so according to that MRI,
Mm.
there's still a mass, but
Okay.
my body has come so far
Yeah.
and my symptoms are gone and everything's functioning. And so then, but I still was like, I don't care if it looks like I'm healthy. I want to never think about this again.
Yeah.
So then we talked to another surgeon who finally says, yeah, I can help you. This is no big deal. I'll go in through the ear. I'm going to do this. It'll be a 10-hour surgery. Come back in 3 months for the surgery.
Okay.
So put me on the schedule. And at this point, my family and friends are trying to talk me out of it because they're like,
Oh,
Johanna, have you looked at yourself lately? And like, you're really healthy. Why are you going to go through with this? Because I want certainty. I want to never ever think about brain tumors ever again. I
mm,
want to know my outcome, even if it messes with something in my face. Like I want to know. And so 3 months later, I go for the surgery. It's like 5 a.m. because it's going to be an all day thing. You have to fast for 24 hours. I'm hangry and just
yeah.
hangry and grumpy and just like anxious and just want this to be over. And they've got me all prepped up. I'm on the table. The anesthesiologist is there ready to put me under. And the surgeon comes walking in, holding my charts, and he says, I've actually changed my mind. I'm not going to do this surgery because
Okay.
because I can't operate on a healthy person. And if I did do this surgery, it could put you in a wheelchair or on a feeding tube. And I'm not going to risk that. And so I'm actually like not going to do anything about what any MRI says unless your symptoms show this.
Mm.
And I screamed and yelled and cried and
This was
did not.
really testing your faith, wasn't it? What I'm feeling is this was really like, are you really trusting me? Are you really? And sorry, that's just what I
Yes.
was feeling. Yeah.
Yep. And so after I finally got myself together and acted like an adult again, uh, we left the hospital. And well, the surgeon said, I'm not going to do anything unless symptoms are this,
Yes.
but I still want you to come back every 6 months. We're going to do a watch and wait.
Yeah.
And that was where I finally put my foot down and said, no, like this is my final act of faith. This is the final thing I have to do about what I believe, which is I have to believe and then accept that I am healthy no matter what that piece of paper says.
Okay.
And you already told me you're not going to do anything based on the paper. You're only looking at my symptoms now. And I can't, like, my faith isn't quite strong enough to come back every 6 months and have the pants scared off of me.
Yeah.
I need to walk away from my need to know, from my need for certainty, from my need to prove it to people, let it all go and say, nope, I know I am healed and I am done. And so, so
Wow.
I walked out of there. We went to breakfast because my whole family was in town for they were, supposed to be there when I woke up and
Yes.
all this stuff. They'd all traveled. We had hotels anyhow. So we went out to breakfast and we were like sitting at this little restaurant talking, and I'm still a little upset and like crying. And this man at a table next to us turns around and he's like, "Sorry to interrupt. I just overheard you talking about this. And actually, I'm a pastor. And our church is doing a series on healing right now. And we would absolutely love, could you come to our church tomorrow and we could pray for you as a like as a whole church, pray for healing?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Well, we got the hotels. We're here anyway. Why not?" So the next morning we went to their church, and like the entire church just prayed over me. And
Powerful.
we went home, and that was the last time that I've ever been back to a surgeon
Yes.
for my head. I have not seen another MRI since, but my body just continued to get all the way, like no more choking, no
Yeah.
more headaches, no more anything
Incredible.
since.
Yeah. Well, Johanna, wow. Oh gosh, I mean, I could talk to you literally all day long about this, but I would love to ask you, what is your rule for living your life now? So what is it? What have you taken from all of this? And what could you share with the listeners as to, whether they're going through something as heartbreaking as that you went through, or maybe they're just even feeling a little stuck in their life. Like you said, we hope not everyone has to go through what you've got through to have this major life changing moment. But how do you live your life now, and what could you share with others to, just a few nuggets that would help them on their journey?
Oh man, I have so many nuggets. I'll try to limit it to a few.
Okay,
But
go for it.
one that I would say is what you believe matters, but what you do about what you believe matters way more.
Okay.
Like I had always believed in healing, but until I actually took some action steps towards it, nothing happened.
Okay.
I apply that same thing to my business with my clients. Like they believe that they have a really amazing service, that they are the best at what they do. But when it comes to how they look, they haven't, and how they show up in the world and how they're perceived, they haven't done anything about that belief. And so they just look the same as everyone else. That is what people perceive, and life goes on. They remain a frustrated business owner
Yeah.
saying, "I know I'm worth so much more. Why can't I charge for what I'm worth?" Because they haven't done anything about
Yes.
the fact that they believe they are worth more. So I
How
come
lucky
in.
they are, sorry, just to have you with them, supporting them on that journey. And I am sure that you serve them and they soar because of the work that they do with you.
They do.
Yes,
But that's business. This
yes.
is life. So another great nugget we already mentioned was choose joy.
Mm,
It is, as I discovered, the antidote to uncertainty. And uncertainty is often the root of fear.
yes,
And so choosing joy will eradicate, like, once you realize there's actually nothing left to be afraid of, life expands. And then another thing, let's see. Oh man, when you first
oh,
asked that, I
I
had
know.
such a
Sorry, you
good
had
one.
only go on. Let's just find more. Let's see if we can let one more trickle through.
um, do one thing every day that scares you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to challenge me now. Yes,
That will continue to expand your world, like we talked about. So
yes,
I actually saw that quote is not from me. I saw it on a refrigerator magnet at a friend's house early on in this journey.
yes,
And it struck me like I've been living my whole life trying to avoid fear. And now it has come right in my face. And there's so many things I've always wanted to do, and I've never done them. And like, I liked riding on the back of my friends' motorcycles, but it was always kind of tainted by the fear that I felt that my life was in someone else's hands and
yes.
vroom, vroom, scary fast. But I really wanted to enjoy the whole experience. And so I saw that magnet and I went out and I took a motorcycle safety course and got my motorcycle license. And I was like, that was my direct attempt to punch fear in the face and do something that scares me. And now I freaking love it. The
Yeah.
third company that I started was actually with two friends. We started building custom cafe racer motorcycles.
Wow.
And
So different.
so different. But now I completely just love if it makes me afraid and not for a good reason. Like I'm not a thrill seeker just for the sake of adrenaline.
Yeah. Okay. Got
Not at
you.
all. Like
Yes.
I love to ride my motorcycle and just cruise. I
Yeah.
have no need for speed. I'm not trying to defy death constantly.
Yeah.
It's just something that I genuinely knew I would love, but fear kept me from doing it.
Okay. I understand. Yes.
And so that, like, now I apply that constantly and reapply it constantly because it's easy, even with something as crazy as the brain tumor and then being healed from it. I still got complacent again.
Yeah.
Like I
You're
started the
never get
business.
complacent now then.
I started the business and then, survived for 3 years, 2 or 3 years. I was just trying to survive the tumor, trying to survive life and trying to survive a baby business and getting it started. But then on the other side of it, I looked around and went, oh, I like had a really big launch, a really good leap, did something with my life, but I'm definitely still not living up to what I'm capable of. And I didn't come this far to only come this far. So then it was like, oh, time to reapply motivation or inspiration or whatever it takes. Help, get coaching. Like I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within
Oh,
seminar.
amazing. Yes.
It was awesome.
Yes.
And um, they reminded me to fall in love with my business or with my clients instead of with my products or services.
Yeah.
And like I found that new motivation and since then started making quantum bunny leaps in my business and in life and just like, okay, I'm tired of mediocrity and I don't have to go back to that ever again.
I think
Like,
you're never, ever, ever going. I can sense it. I can just feel you're just getting bigger and bigger. It's just amazing. And I'm so grateful that you came here and shared your journey and you shared your story. And I really feel like, I really hope the listeners, I hope they really and give us some feedback on this, but I really feel like they will have taken so much from listening to your journey and your story and all that you have to share. And if there was one thing, you would say to people, what is the one thing that you would like to end it? This podcast is about encouraging people to stand up and shape the world and and not be scared of their purpose and not be scared of shining up and being different and being more than, let's say, getting out of that place where you were probably feeling like there was more and that you like you said, you were living in mediocrity.
yeah.
What could you say to someone who feels like, yes, okay, I want to do a bit more, I want to shake the world a little bit in my small way or in my big way, or I feel like I'm meant to be doing more, and what one parting word of wisdom could you say to somebody listening?
I would say never stop at no and never take the doctor's word as the last word, whether it's a literal doctor
Mm,
or someone you admire in business or a best friend or a spouse or anyone. There will be 10 people who say you can't do something, but it only takes one voice to say that you can. And sometimes that voice has to be you at first. So
yeah, I'm getting
find
chills.
that voice. And if you can't find it, like if you can't find the faith in you yet, borrow it from someone else.
Yes.
Choose an intentional input and just go, nope. Like I listen to reason, but I'm not listening to someone who just says, nope, can't be done. My favorite way to do things is the way they can't be done.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So yes, because there's so many times where we have this desire to do something, and we just hear that other voices go, no, you can't do that. How could you possibly do that? And we just allow ourselves to shrink back and go, okay, all right, I won't do that then. And I really hope now that people will go, actually, yes, I am going to listen to that voice that says yes, and surround myself with people who say yes as well, because that would also make a difference to their life. So Joe, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing all that you shared. And I can't wait for everyone to hear this interview. I want to get out there as soon as I can, because I think it's going to inspire so many. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.